Okay, so just to explain what we're doing, we're putting together a bug hotel, and this is the little sketch I've drawn to give you a better idea of what the end result should look like. This might change slightly as we go on, depending on how it's going, but this is the general idea. Please excuse my hexagon shapes, they're not exactly perfect, but these will hopefully look a lot more symmetrical at the end result. So yeah, these little circles are actually bamboo, where the solitary bugs will be nesting, and this whole shape will be full of bamboo with the hexagon shape on the outside. So yeah, the trickiest part will probably be putting together the hexagon shapes, but I do have a plan for that. So let's crack on and see how this turns out. So this is basically how every pallet wood project starts, and it's not fun, but has to be done. So let's crack on. So this one looks like it might be a little bit easier. I don't want to jinx it, but there doesn't seem to be as many nails in this one, which is always good. I've managed to crack the first slat. I definitely jinxed it, spoke too soon. See which one's gonna be better. This is tougher than I remember. All this wood seems to be splitting because it's super dry. I don't need particularly long slats for this project. I might have to contemplate cutting it with a saw, otherwise I'm just going to end up with split pieces of wood everywhere. Let me try a bit longer, and if it doesn't work, let me actually show you what I'm talking about. You can see how it's split. Now, do I cut here, or rather sacrifice 4 inches of wood, 3 inches of wood? Yeah, I think rather sacrifice that little bit of wood than risk damaging it all the way along. Once these two are out, I'll definitely be able to get this out easier. You can see it's split here as well. Starting to split along this line. And here I'm losing another 4 inches of wood. So maybe that is the better option. Not ideal, but I think in this situation, it might be the call. I definitely think that's going to be easier and probably a smarter idea. Oh, that was better. So now, just got to try and get the middle piece out. Straight away I can feel that's easier. Wow, so much easier. Look at that. I can almost pull them off. I don't want to, in case I risk breaking it. So yeah, that's way easier. Definitely going to be a little bit shorter, but in the long run, I'm going to definitely save time, energy, potentially splitting more wood. Like even when I do that, I can feel the wood cracking and groaning. We don't want any of these nails escaping. As you can see, rather 3 nice pieces of wood than a whole bunch of cracked stuff. Alright, no more talking, let's crack on with this. If you listen very carefully, You can hear my back crying out in pain. Probably won't be able to get up tomorrow. But it's part of the job. Let's bring you in closer. Don't mind a couple holes, that's not a problem. As long as it's not split. Pallet wood's never going to be fantastic. It's never going to be perfect. But we are upcycling this into something else. So, not a big deal. There we have it. A couple pieces of pallet wood. Good pallet wood. No ugly splits. Anything like that. It's just going to be so much easier to work with. Alright, we'll move on to the next thing. Okay, you can see the shape coming together. I am going to glue these three slats together, these three panels, and once they're sufficiently glued and hardened up, I'm going to cut that shape. It's quite satisfying. Unfortunately, these are just the only clamps I have that will fit over this. Okay, we're going to wait for that to dry over the next hour or so, and that should be good for us to cut that shape. So I've got some extra wood I'm going to use on the outside of the panels, and that'll just help give it a little extra level of security. As soon as I do have the wood, and I don't want to waste it. Okay, I've decided to use the oscillating saw for this, hoping that it cuts relatively straight. I can always neaten it up afterwards. And there you have it. That actually worked out pretty well. So this is actually what it'll look like from the inside, but you won't actually see this. These are just on the outside to make sure they don't move. Okay, I'm going to do the same thing with the sides of the box. I'm going to glue them, clamp them, and then I'll screw them in. Alright, we're getting there. Okay, so that's where we've got up to today. But unfortunately, we've lost the light. So far, pretty happy. Just got to work out how to do the roof tomorrow, and we'll be sorted. Alright, until then. Okay, we're at this stage. Now we've got to put the roof on, and we've got to build the front cover in that hexagon shape. So that's today's job. Let's get into it. I think that looks about right for the overhang of the roof. We need to add an extra 16 mils onto the one side. It's not perfect, but it's pretty darn good for an oscillating saw. neaten it up a little bit. I'll just sand those edges down, make it neater. So I don't want to sand the whole bug hotel because it's just meant to be rough and very natural. So I'm just sanding this so that the roof sits as flush as possible. Does that look about right? Like I said, it doesn't have to be 100% perfect. Just gonna put a little bit of glue on here. Oops. Okay, I knew that was gonna happen. This glue is probably a bad idea. So there you have it. Roof is on. A little bit tricky, but nothing too serious. I'm not going to sand anything else on this little bug hotel because I want it to be dirty. I want it to be natural. Okay, on to the next phase. Okay. Just got to measure how big this box is so we can cut the panel. Still 28. Okay, great. Let's do some cutting. Okay, that fits. Now comes the tricky part. I now need to make the honeycomb pattern on here. And yeah, that's not going to be easy. I'm going to have to use some art skills, which I haven't used for a very long time. Okay, let's see how we get on. Hopefully you can see a little bit what's going on here. Let's say 6 centimeters. I think maybe it needs to go out a little bit more on the sides. Split the difference. I think that's the winner. So I guess now I can make that the corner there. If you made it this far in the video and you want to support the channel, just smash that subscribe button and that like button. It really helps the channel grow and it would be much appreciated. Definitely a little bit of a tedious process, but actually quite fun. And hopefully it makes a nice difference in the end of the day. So that's the end product. I've mapped out where I need to cut. And that is the next thing we got to deal with. So yeah, wish me luck for that one. It's quite satisfying. Just going to drill out the corners. Some of these angles might be a little bit tricky, but generally I think the bigger ones should be fine. Damn, this part has hurt my back. Okay, I think we've drilled all the holes. Done. I have to neaten it up still. Probably not exactly the right tool, but it'll do the job. So it needs to be cleaned up. Just maybe give it a little sanding, neaten up the edges, but that's the general idea. And I don't think it turned out too bad, to be honest. But still a long way to go, so stay tuned. I'm just trying to smooth down the rough edges. Just aesthetically it looks good. So I think this is as good as I'm going to get it for now. If I do it any more, I risk breaking the frame, and that's just not what we want. Okay, so what we're doing next is cutting this bamboo into sections. Now, according to the experts, each section should be about 16 centimeters. So I have made this box about 16 to 17 centimeters. So they should fit perfectly. Like that. Now, the solitary bugs, in this case bees, whatever bug needs to use this hotel, flies in there and nests in the bamboo. So if you know anything about bamboo, it's actually broken up into sections. And you can see the sections like that. And these sections aren't necessarily 16 centimeters. So I'll have to drill through this little compartment for the right size. So this is going to be painstaking actually. And I found the best method to be accurate is actually just use the secateurs and just cut them into the right lengths. Not ideal, it's going to take a long time. I'm sure I'll start to develop a better technique as I go along, but for now, this is what I'm going to do. Hopefully I have enough bamboo. I will be using some bigger rounds of timber as well, which I need to source. And that might take a day or two. But for now, I'm just going to do the bamboo to a point where I'm happy with the amount I've got. Alright. I do have a whole pile of this stuff. Hopefully it's the right amount. Another thing, these holes need to be roughly 10 to 12 millimeters for the ideal size for a solitary bee or something like that. So yeah, let's get cracking with this. Just going to show you me doing one or two, and then I'll just fast forward to the end where it's done. Okay, so that's roughly 16 centimeters. But you can see there's a compartment over here. So I need to cut this here and drill through the compartment. Bear in mind, these don't have to be super accurate. Like, this is in nature, nothing's ever super consistent or super accurate. So yeah, it doesn't matter if there's a few little chips like that off the bamboo. It's about roughly there. There you have it. And you can see, hopefully you can see, but I need to drill through here to make it into a hollow straw. So wish me luck. There we go. There we go. I don't really want to go much thicker than that. That's about 10, maybe 12. See that? Perfect example of why I've got to drill through here. A lot more to go. This is going to kill my back. Okay, I don't want to go any thicker than that. It's probably the most I want to go. So that last bit of it's just a bit useless to me. Okay, so what I decided to do to speed this whole process up was actually make a little jig that will give me roughly the right measurements. It's not perfect, but it definitely helps speed the process along. And I've checked, these are all roughly exactly the length I need. It's not an exact science, but way easier than measuring every single one individually. I mean, you can use this design, which is just literally made from a little bit of scrap wood. I mean, I could make this way more complicated and way more accurate, but this doesn't have to be perfect, so it's just simple, quick and easy to help shave off a few minutes putting this whole thing together. So yeah, you can see those are all pretty much the same length, and that will hopefully cut this time in half, because I do need a lot of these. So that's literally half the pile that I've cut, but this jig definitely made it a lot easier. I got through that in no time this morning. Hopefully I've got enough to finish the project. Okay, now that we've finished hollowing out all the pieces of bamboo, and hopefully we have enough, we're going to start stacking them in. Some of them might be a little bit too long, but I'll just clip them off later. So now I'm just busy stacking the bug hotel with the bamboo. I have hollowed out every single one, cleaned them out so there's no debris in there. Now I'm going to try and stack this as tight as possible so I can avoid using glue. You can use glue, just needs to be a non-toxic variety. So you definitely wouldn't want to be counterintuitive and end up killing your guests. So if you are going to use glue, make sure that it's bug friendly. Not all of these are exactly the same size and diameter, which is perfectly fine. They're all the recommended 16 centimeters, if not a little bit longer. So hopefully with them being really nice and snug, I won't have an issue with them falling out. But I will try to prevent that a little bit further in the video as well. But for now, let's just try and stack these as tight as possible. And hopefully we have enough. Okay, I had to start that again, because that just was not working out for me. Decided to let gravity do the work. And this will be a way better method of stacking them in. Once I've got them nicely stacked, I can then go through and pull out any ones which I think are a bit dodgy, the wrong size, or just protruding too much. Hopefully I've actually got enough, because it's looking like it might be close. Okay, unfortunately, I'm a good few pieces short, so I'm going to make a plan, and hopefully in the next clip you'll see the plan I've made. I decided this was a much smarter way to stack these bamboos. We have to stack them nice and tight so that they don't fall out. So hopefully we do have enough pieces now. I'll come back and trim the ones that are sticking out a bit too far. But for now, I just want to get them in, see if we have enough. Hopefully we do. Okay, it's starting to get nice and tight now. So now there's less chance of them falling out, which is always good. Okay, there you have it. Finally full. And those bamboo shoots are nice and tight in there. I'm going to come back and just snip the end of these bamboos that are sticking out. I'll snip them off. But we're getting much closer to being done. So now that we've come to the end of this little project, it's time for me to give you a rundown on the basics. Why are we actually building this? The main thing is to try and promote a healthy ecosystem within your garden. This will attract pollinators that will be very beneficial to your garden in the long run. Solitary bees, for example, have a 300-meter radius or a 1,000-foot radius from their home. So not only will this benefit you and your garden, but your neighbors too. Things I didn't know before I started this project was that South Africa is home to over 1,000 different species of solitary bees, and that roughly 50% nest in cavities such as this, and 50% nest in the ground. That was something I didn't know, and I had to educate myself on that topic. General maintenance. This bug hotel, unfortunately, after roughly about 2 years, should be disposed of. It can go longer, but bees and other bugs do carry diseases. And with the different bugs or solitary bees that will be nesting in here, there's a higher chance of disease. So there are lots of different techniques to this, but for me personally, I think the easiest thing would be to dispose of it after 2 years. Where you place your bug hotel in your garden is vital. It needs to be within close range of a water source, which you can provide, as well as close to flowers, etc. Because at the end of the day, we want them to pollinate the garden. With the loss of habitat that is currently happening in our area, it's super important that we give these solitary bees the best chance possible. And this is a great way of doing it. So if you made this far in the video, thanks so much for watching. Please don't forget to like and subscribe. That'll really help to grow the channel. And we'll catch you in the next one. Cheers.